Okay, everybody, good afternoon. Welcome to your first forum breakout session. Yay. My name is Laura Cattell-Knoll. I work at the Alliance for the Chesapeake Bay, and I'm the moderator of today's session. So if you have any logistic issues, let me know. If you're participating virtually, feel free to chat me if I can help you out in any way with any tech or other logistics. I am so excited to introduce our speaker today, Mateusz Rozanski, who is going to be speaking today about ultra-urban green stormwater infrastructure. Mateusz has experience in building green infrastructure in highly urban environments. He's a co-founder of the Baltimore Climate Resilience Coalition and longtime greening coordinator for the Old Goucher Community Association. He successfully implemented many adaptation practices in Old Goucher and surrounding neighborhoods over the last decade, including coordinating the planting of over 800 trees in central Baltimore. So thank you so much for joining us, and take it away.
Hi, everyone. Thank you very much for joining me. This is a pleasure to see so many people and that you are interested in the work that my neighborhood did. I would like to encourage you to ask questions. I think it's during the presentation, I think it would be much easier for me and for you to survive this. Let's just start. Ultra-urban green stormwater infrastructure, a community approach to create a sustainable urban environment. And we should have pointed.
Is it working or no?
Oh, okay.
Is it working now?
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Perfect. So a little bit about me. So I'm a practitioner, urban green infrastructure practitioner for over the last 10 years in central Baltimore. I'm dealing mostly with the high urban density areas. I'm extremely interested in heat mitigation and also using stormwater to mitigate heat stress or heat-related issues. I am an executive director, co-founder of Baltimore Climate Resilience Coalition. This is like an advocacy group for a small advocacy group representing Central East Baltimore. All our neighborhoods are Justice 40 neighborhoods. I'm also a community partner with the Baltimore Social Environmental Collaborative, which is a U.S. Department of Energy funded grant that focuses on urban climate research, like heat, stormwater management, or flooding, and also the pollution. Those are three major themes that this research is trying to address. I also work for Johns Hopkins University for 21st century cities as a green infrastructure strategies coordinator. The next slide is Old Goucher map, and Old Goucher is centrally located neighborhood in Baltimore and has several characteristics that also makes difficult to introduce and implement any kind of stormwater in green or blue infrastructure projects. So the neighborhood is very urban, it's very mixed, it has a mixed use, so a lot of first-story buildings are devoted to commerce or offices. We have also multi-level and multi-residential buildings in the neighborhood, which makes it, again, much more urbanized than the majority of the American towns. Our challenges that makes combating climate change difficult in Old Goucher are cars and car-centric design. We have oversized and failing infrastructure, underground, above ground. And also we have we're dealing with the problem of archaic hardscape materials. So those hardscape materials are not reusable, they're impermeable, they absorb heat, and they're non-modular, which is also important. We're dealing with a urban heat island, and I will talk a little bit about this in a moment. We have also, we're dealing with a suburban approach that trying to fix urban problem. And another major issues are that our stakeholders are basically working in silos. So people really don't know what is going on. And sometimes they are causing damage, implementing their own ideas, or when there is no cooperation between different groups like DOT, DPW, some non-profits as well. And here, the major issues that we're dealing in Goucher, those are parking spaces that were created right after the war. A lot of demolitions, but also a lot of green spaces that were converted into surface parking spaces, and they're creating problems with flooding. But the most dire problems that we're dealing with are the temperatures that are much higher than in the surrounding areas. Basically, those parking works as a literally frying pan that they are absorbing all the heat and releasing. So we kind of we have to leave this through the night, through the weekend. That's basically that's our reality. And those parking spaces, they stay usually empty over the weekend. One thing that I also want to mention is with those parking, we're experiencing a lot of problems with brownouts and blackouts. So I'm trying to give you a picture of what is really our major problem in the neighborhood, and it's actually temperature. So how Goucher has been addressing climate change issues like heat waves, heat stress, droughts, and flooding. So we, of course, planted a lot of trees, over 800, but it might be even 1,000 right now. And we try to plant them in a very, we try to distribute them all over the neighborhood to create a thermal comfort. One of the solutions that we started using mostly for establishing new planted trees was to provide access to stormwater from the streets. So we did a lot of curb cuts, and this is a diagram showing an example of a rain garden that is at the same time as a tree bit. I don't think is the video that could be.
Is it embedded in the PowerPoint?
Yes.
I don't know if it.
Let me. Oh, actually, it's here. Okay, okay. So let me.
I can see if I can play it from here.
Yeah, that would be great. Thank you.
Yeah.
So this is a short video showing how those rain gardens, which are also very easy to implement, they're not really.
Yeah, I mean, it's not showing for our virtual participants. Give me one moment here.
Sure, sure. So this is rain garden, actually a set of rain gardens that were built in St. Paul Street. They're very simple. They allow the water from the streets to come in and support the trees. Trees respond very well to this kind of access to water. We didn't have any problem with oversaturating those trees. Like conditions in the cities are so difficult that they will take any kind of water. They actually would need even more water. I'll be talking in a moment about also storage the water, stormwater for. Here you can see how really simple it was. It was just basically removing the concrete, cutting through the curbs, and digging some trenches with the pebbles. And here is another example of. No, that's fine.
Okay, should be good.
Perfect. So here's another example of creating a rain garden or reverse French drain. This is very narrow area. There is a lot of pedestrian traffic, but there is also people who are getting off the car from the parking spaces. So what we did, we basically dig out those trenches, we cut the curbs, allowing the stormwater access to the tree beds. There is an overflow on the other side, and we filled it up with pebbles. It was very simple. There is still room for improvement, but what we notice from anecdotal observation, we see that this extra access to the water, stormwater, actually helps the trees to grow much healthier, and they are much more resilient to any kind of drought situation. That would be another video.
Okay, great.
One more.
Okay.
Oh, it's, yeah.
The right one?
Yeah, yeah.
I think it's the second.
In the middle, in the middle.
No, I want to show the video, not the PowerPoint.
Oh, I'm sorry,
Oh,
sorry.
Yeah, because I got to enable the sound, right?
Right. Here is also a very simple solution at the end of the block. This is actually a white oak tree that's holding very well to the additional access to water.
Wait, oh, did it wrong again, sorry.
But no. And another solutions that allows stormwater to be used for vegetation, but also to mitigate flooding are pavers on sand. So those pavers on sand, those are 12 by 12. They are maybe 1 inch thick. The joints between the pavers are probably a half an inch. and you have a 7-inch sub base of a coarse sand. So this is not my idea. This is a commonly used hardscape in most of the European cities. We are thinking that they also allows aeration of the roots. They are much cooler. They work like as a heat pump, and they also are permeable. So here is the diagram showing this, and here will be another last movie.
Okay.
I just want to show you how they work during the rain, how this sponge-like area that is under the pavers can absorb so much water, hold it, and percolate.
What's under the sand?
Nothing. It's just
How many inches of sand?
7 inches.
7.
7 inches, yeah.
And then native soilable of that?
Yes. So that was also why we didn't do anything more complicated, was also because there is a lot of underground infrastructure that is constantly being breaking up, and there is a lot of repairs. We want to do it also to do, you know, something that is really simple for people to replicate. And here, actually, and forgive me, I will be talking to my husband, but I was very excited when we actually came.
Look at the amount of water that's basically saturated by the pavers.
So, that's the last video, I think.
May I ask what the maintenance is on that? Like once it's installed, is there?
There is some growth, but the sand seems to repel any kind of growth. So I think that the base helps in the sand between the joints. I would say once, twice a year they could be weeded, but it's whenever you have like a really heavy pedestrian traffic. And I think that there are also solutions how to make it less problematic. I'm sorry. So in places where you have like a lot of pedestrian traffic, it's really difficult to have any kind of vegetation that can survive over there. So in like very, very dense populated places, it seems like those sidewalks maintain itself. There is. Go ahead.
I was just gonna ask if the pavers, are the pavers impervious pavers or pervious?
No,
pavers?
they are just they are impervious. They're made of concrete. What makes them pervious are those joints.
Okay.
And the common question probably that you're going to ask why they are better. In my opinion, I think they are better because they really require very little maintenance. And actually, there will be.
Are they locking?
Not really, but you know, the patterns like that. I mean, you mean if they're interlocking? No, not really, not really. I think that if they're in the frames that hold the entire structure together, like, then you don't have to do it. They're very simple actually to install.
And do you get any design points for them from there for stormwater management?
Not really.
No.
Not really. It's commonly it's basically they're regarded as they're impermeable basically.
Yeah, so
like
never convince anyone to do them.
yeah. So, but another slide that is going to lead us to actually give you some more insights about those pavers is what we're doing with the Baltimore Social Environmental Collaborative. We have the Urban Integrated Field Laboratory, one of the 4 in the nations currently. The grant is run by Benjamin Zajcek from Johns Hopkins University. And here you see Morgan students actually doing experiments, checking the drainage of those pavers. And I think that this is the last video, sorry.
As long as everyone bears with me with the back and forth.
So this particular thing is run by, this particular research is run by Dr. James Hunter. And we did a comparison of the old pavers. They are like over 140 years old, without really a subbase. The subbase completely disappeared, but they still drain. They drain in 20 minutes, probably 2.5 inches of water. Those are new ones, and those are draining under 6 minutes. Yeah. So just want to show you, this is at the end of recording, but you will see how water basically disappear. So, yeah.
And are the ADA compliant?
No, actually ADA doesn't say anything about using those pavers. So it's allowed. And actually I also find out that there are options to do a stamp gravel, 3 different types of gravel stamp on each other. It actually can also, it's ADA approved, and it's also permeable, much more permeable. Another aspect of how we can get rid of water in the cities are those green facades. We are using cheaper solutions, which are usually vines. They have depending on the size, they can provide a lot of transpiration as well and catch a lot of water. The same is with, I'm sorry, that's with green facades. Those are facade gardens. So those are places that were reclaimed from the private spaces, but they have, they're useful for the street trees because that's where the roots can expand. That's where the water comes and nutrients. And here you have an example of a facade garden when we were removing concrete. Another way to fight climate flooding and heat stress are pocket parks along parking lots. So we noticed that we have a problem with planting trees in the tree pits on the parking lots. They cannot withstand the heat, but also there is a problem with watering. So we decided that it's better to create some kind of groves that are also allow people to walk, and this is you know, they provide enough thermal comfort, and they protect people from heat stress that is imposed from the parking spaces. Here you can see how they are located in the context of the parking spaces. I know that they could be better in terms of stormwater management. That was like one of the first projects that we did. Concrete removal. So there is a lot of concrete that it shouldn't be. It's just basically everything seems to be concreted. So there is a lot of opportunities to remove concrete and enlarge the tree bits. Here you see an example of a rain garden that was created actually in this tree bit with a bunch of concrete. Please take a look how thick this concrete is as well. So this is gonna be something that I would like to close the aspects of urban trees. So why they are important? So they are important because they support stormwater management. They can support evapotranspiration and transpiration, which is also very important from the point of mitigating the temperature. They provide shade, and we're thinking also that there is a strong aspect related to reflectiveness. they can also mitigate temperature. And that would depend on different species. The trimming is also important, and I know it might be not the right place to talk about stormwater management, but if we want to have a healthy trees in the urban, very dense populated area, they have to be trimmed in a way that they're not hit by the boxcars, for example. We constantly are losing trees to large cars. So moving them up, and here there's one problem. There is something that is called wind sail effect. So if they're like trimmed this way, they can actually collapse. But it seems that in the city where we did this kind of improvements, trimming, that is very similar to what is done in the urban areas, for example, in Europe, in Amsterdam. It seems like the building are enough to protect those trees from the winds. And now, a very important thing, I think, in this entire question, how the trees can help stormwater management, is water storage for urban trees. And here you have a product that is called tree diaper. It's a polymer. I know that the name is funny, but it's one of the really great product that can absorb water, hold water, and we use them for new planted trees. However, if they're used at scale, they can also capture a lot of water. And the tree diaper was invented by Dr. Wei Zhang and Hailing Yang and the project was funded by the National Science Foundation. That would be another video.
No worries.
So, yes.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
No, yeah, just a quick question. before the video.
I'm sorry.
No, I'm interested about that tree diaper. Like,
Right.
I'm familiar with some of the bags, but so you're saying like a storm could come in, it could fill up the bag and then water the tree later during where there's like a drought period?
It is.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's very sustainable. It's watering, but it's also maintaining soil moisture. So it's like two things. We know that the roots actually from trees that are in distress, they actually attach to those tree diapers and they suck basically water as a kind of reservoir whenever.
I was gonna say, I've used that product and I think they work pretty effective. You have to really soak them really
Right.
well first. You gotta soak them overnight and let them swell up. But it saves a lot of watering truck costs.
So I just want to say that we basically try on those large parking spaces. Sometimes I use a half of the diaper that I put it next to a tree, and I literally never water this tree.
Again.
Yeah.
You just
Yeah. So like maybe once, twice in a season, you can saturate them for a better. But they actually help survive trees in unbelievable way. Go ahead, sorry.
I was wondering if those are commercially available, and also, is it polyacrylamide capsules that are inside or beads?
I don't know exactly what it is. I think it's like hydrogel.
It's very similar to what's inside of a diaper.
Polyacrylamide
If
gel.
you cut open, they could spill out into the environment.
That's what I'm
One
asking.
disadvantage to them.
Yeah.
It could, weed whackers or something like that might damage them.
Mateusz, can I ask you to stand in front of the camera?
Sure, I'm
a little
sorry.
bit better for our virtual folks?
Yeah, go
There you
ahead.
go.
So does that mean that once you remove them, they're actually bad? I mean, what's left is sort of not good for the environment?
As long as they stay self-contained, right? As long as they
Yes.
don't get damaged, they can
But don't
potentially
you
be
eventually,
reused.
but once the tree is mature, you don't remove it?
Yeah, she could be.
You can
Okay. I'm just
remove.
trying to think of sort of what's left if you end up with actually an environmentally unfriendly product once you actually remove it from the tree. That's why I'm asking about.
Well, they can be removed, but what we started doing is actually adding more to a mature trees. So not only for a young trees, but also to help a larger tree to survive period of droughts, basically. So sometimes if the tree pit is big enough, I can put even 10 of them. And there is, you know, that's actually pretty significant amount of water that could be absorbed, rainwater, and reused for.
And is this something that goes on top of the roots, or is it all?
Well, it should be mulch.
Okay.
So mulch helps even more. However, because I don't have workers, and you know, I'm doing this by myself, a lot of stuff, and sometimes I have to recharge them in the middle of the summer. So I really don't put a lot of mulch. They basically survive without mulch. Yes.
I was wondering what the lifespan of the product is, like how many times can you use?
I think that, you know, if they are not disturbed, they can last for 4 or 5 years. But I think, and this is just my observation, I think with this hydrogel is shrinking and expanding, I think it losing at some point the ability to absorb water. There are also damages from, you know, when they are really charged. If anyone stepped into it, it can break. So that's the one of the problems. Yes, go ahead.
As far as the trees you're talking about, pruning them and stuff, do you have suggestions on better species that need less water and pruning?
Well,
and sorry, I just, in like Baltimore, a lot of the older trees are so root bound in the sidewalk that they can't, it seems really unhealthy. Like you just, instead of the dirt, you just have the root there, which I imagine doesn't help for water. Any suggestions for any of that?
would you tell me this? Would you say this question again? I'm sorry, I didn't
just
understand.
for like tree species, would you suggest for a couple reasons? Because one, for like pruning, like are there ones that grow well in an urban environment that don't need pruning? But then also, if you look at the older trees that are in Baltimore, in some of those dirt spots, they're so root bound that no water is absorbed anymore.
Right.
Because the whole, what used to be dirt is just root. Like, do you have ways of avoiding that?
Well, with the legacy trees that we inherited, a lot of them, they have a problem with the soil compaction, and they clearly didn't achieve the sizes that they should. I think that it would be better to cut them down really and plant new trees that can within 10 years achieve the size that those trees achieved in 40. With pruning, my major thing about tree selection for the city is the temperature mitigation. So I would say that, for example, I'm not a very big fan of honey locusts because those trees don't provide shade, they don't provide transpiration as much as we would like to. I think that there will be also a rapid change in the species because of what is happening with the climate change. So you will see later in the slide, we will actually talk about some southern species that we are using. We're using a lot of live oaks right now in Baltimore, and we're thinking that they're the best, maybe not the best for trimming, but if they're healthy, they all respond pretty well to a trimming. So that's another thing. If we notice that a lot of legacy trees, if they are trimmed, they can easily die. They are so weak.
Do foresee them in like the next 20 to 40 years? Will they have the same root problem, or is there something you're doing to sort of?
Well, you know, we were always strained. We always had problem with budget, so we didn't we didn't cut them down. And we also want to have like some trees that can allow help to mature the new ones. But I think right now a lot of them should be cut down. They're
Sorry, I mean with the new trees, what's
Oh.
to keep them from getting the same root issue? Is it, do you think like with the more water absorption, will that keep the roots?
I think
from
that
getting the same
yeah,
issue, or
no, I think that the roots are growing pretty healthy from what we saw, and there could be several reasons why is that. We do try to make the soil much richer, and I think that this is one of the reasons. All of those trees that we planted, they were planted in with, for example, horse manure, and this horse manure was actually excellent to start a biodiversity, and I think that it helps. There are some places with the really compacted soil, and it's really difficult to do something except planting the right trees. Maybe they can. We noticed that, for example, tulip poplars do well. Or they are very huge trees, and but they kind of are kicked in some kind of dwarfism. Many of those trees, and it seems like tulip poplars can deal with the soil compaction. That's my observation. But there are also like Bradford pears, the legacy trees that we have. They're both in one places they're performing very well. In other places where the soil compaction is very huge, they're horrible trees.
Well,
They are horrible.
They're horrible in general.
Yeah, you can
They're
cut every
ruining
one
our
of them. now.
sideways.
But you know, that's the tree, the legacy tree that we
Yeah.
basically have. So that's the observation that we have.
Cut them down.
I agree.
We have a question virtually.
Yes.
Don't mind, I read it for you. Do you have to deal with synthetic play surfaces, rubberized playground surfaces, or synthetic turf, plastic, grass surfaces? Those are hotter than asphalt. Sometimes flexi pave, rubber, gravel, poured in place mix is used for tree boxes and sidewalks. Flexi pave, but it's hotter than asphalt and leaches toxic substances, so problematic.
We never use that. just those.
And it's not widespread in Baltimore.
No, I don't think so. I don't think so.
Do you have opportunity to use suspended pavement?
Say again.
Do you have an opportunity to use suspended pavement, like silver cells or?
Well, we could do it, and I think that I have some interest from like American Forest, for example, right now to invest it. But what we are trying to do it as simple as possible. So it might be in some places it would be helpful in some places, but I don't think that it's not in our neighborhood. Go ahead.
I came in a little late, so I might have dismissed this, but what organization is organizing these efforts in general?
So it was mostly done by Old Goucher Community Association. So that was the first steps, and then the community association evolved into advocacy group with other central Baltimore neighborhoods, which is called Baltimore Climate Resilience Coalition.
Okay, and then was the funding coming from multiple different sources, or was it?
Yes, so the funding was really interesting. So a lot of funding was actually private. A lot of businesses decided to join the efforts. We had funding from Tree Baltimore, from Chesapeake Bay Foundation, probably all together for 7 blocks by 9 blocks. I believe probably we invested around $2 million into green infrastructure. mostly all those improvements, stormwater improvements, those are private businesses that decided to chip in.
I'm a grant manager for the DNR focused on like stormwater improvements, so it'd be great to see an application.
Oh, great. Thank you.
Nice segue.
I like that. Yeah, go ahead, Larry.
On that note, what do you see as the next steps for more?
I'm thinking that, we need to increase soil volume available for the trees. That is also going to be very important for how much stormwater could be absorbed by the trees. And that would allow us to plant much larger trees or grow trees to a late maturity. And having said that, I think that next challenge will be to create permeable street parkings spaces. So anything that is adjacent to the sidewalk, it could be actually permeable. So all the street parking spaces could actually increase the soil volume available for the trees. I think that also having the entire sidewalks, like it's in in Central Europe, made of pavers, that also gives much more aeration, permeability, and lower temperatures. Those trees are actually, we are noticing that those trees are suffering from the heat burns underneath from, for example, this very, very white concrete that is laid on the sidewalks.
Sounds like a good proposal.
Yes, go ahead.
What kind of community outreach do you do when you're working in a particular block? Do you ever encounter people that don't want the trees?
It was, but we had those kind of problems, but it was in the initial stages. I think when people saw it, what this brings, that actually it brings also a lot of equity and safety and economic vitality. People are not protesting right now. They are actually like on board with that. And another thing is that a lot of those businesses that are involved in the neighborhood, they pay for improvements. They understand that people are not going to come to a hot parking lot and sit under an umbrella. That there is something more needed in the city. Go ahead.
What do you hope to do to expand this project, like working with other organizations?
Absolutely.
Like Baltimore Tree Trust, like easy rain gardens, things like that, that people are already doing these initiatives, but tweaking them to incorporate this kind of.
So Baltimore Tree Trust was our partner. So we planted probably 300 trees by ourselves. Another 400 trees were planted by Baltimore Tree Trust. And now with the BSEC, with their interest with watering, for example, I think that we will be working together on some solutions.
Were there any permitting challenges for these projects?
There were no permits pulled or whatsoever. Everything was done without any permits, and basically that was the only way to do it.
Yes, for forgiveness.
Yeah, but what happened, they knew that basically we're not going to do some horrible things, that we're not going to cut the gas pipes. But yeah, it was done. And eventually we got a verbal approval from the city manager when he visited and he saw it, including even the curb cuts. He said that, I think to a head of planning that, maybe you can put some paint so people don't trip, but nobody tripped so far. So on those.
You have one more virtual question.
Yes.
Okay. Regarding tree box appropriate species, is there any truth to the truism that wet foot accommodating species capable presumably of dealing with occasional anoxia, I think it's pronounced, are generally more successful than strictly upland species? Or do you think that more successful species are rather simply more heat tolerant?
I think that the problem with what we are experiencing in Baltimore in terms of heat stress, it's so high that looking at all kinds of species that we planted in where we use those rain garden, it seems like they want even more water than it's available. I think the conditions are so difficult that they're basically fighting for survival. So we didn't have any problems with tree dying from oversaturations or looking bad. And we have species that I don't know if London plane is a dry loving species because it has a hybrid, but they are doing very well. Zelkovas are doing very well. White oaks are doing very well. Linden trees are doing very well. Pioneer oaks, pioneer elms are doing very well. So it seems like there is still, they need more water than, and then they will take anything available. Any other questions?
Is there any sort of like a design phase that's associated with these projects, or is it basically like once you get the funding, you can just cut the tree?
Well, like designing from
Yeah, just with bigger grants that I've experienced, sometimes there is a large design element that is sort of required for various reasons. A lot of times it's permitting, which I think these are relatively simple projects, which you said. So I don't know, I could see it being really advantageous if you could just go in without necessarily a engineered design and just cut the pit.
The problem was that, you know, with one of the grants that we got from Chesapeake Bay Trust was that basically the design took almost 80% of funds. So this was also the reason why we decided to do it by ourselves without design. We kind of, you have to understand what's happening in the neighborhood in terms of, for example, those blackouts. We really went through a periods of when we have to decide either we're going to do something with that or we are on our own, basically. So to save money and move things forward, we basically
Don't tell my boss, I hate the design. So yeah, it's great to see the work actually get done.
Okay. I think that would be...
Hi there, this is Ivo Bastings from DrainBlock. For sure, the greatest innovation in water resources management this century. DrainBlock is a 100% natural and environmental friendly product. It's extremely light and very, very, very hard. DrainBlock can absorb almost 100% of its volume in water and has a load-bearing capacity. Therefore, it has quickly become Europe's leading solution for creating large-scale underground water retention. And I'm going to demonstrate you why. As you can see, DrainBlock can absorb almost its entire volume in water and release it quickly to the soil. DrainBlock is your superb solution for creating underground stormwater retention in urban areas.
So this is another product that we haven't tried yet, but we're thinking that it might be very helpful, especially with holding stormwater and allowing the trees to tap into those drain blocks. We are thinking, again, this is a very simple solution. It doesn't require a degree in rocket building, just to put this, and you will see in a moment.
If I get too far.
No.
That's where we were, right?
Okay, so here you see how they are installed, and this is another options for how we can capture the water for the trees. We haven't tried yet. This is just basically we're applying for some grants to actually try it. So that would be also something that we would like to do it. And with that, I think we can. I'm sorry, I forgot how many gallons, but it's very large amount of water that could be held and actually intercept by at least partially by trees if they're combined. So here's a drawing showing how those rain gardens providing water can also provide water that could be stored and used by the trees using those drain blocks. Soil improvements and compaction prevention, that's also a problem. A lot of how we are planting our stuff. We use a lot of strawberries, so it's basically not it's sustainable. We don't want to put a lot of fences, rather natural solutions, and that keeps a lot of either dogs or people from walking over the tree beds. Here you can see what is happening. That was actually in a tree bed. The tree was destroyed also. Here you have a solution. This is Berlin and Poznań, Poland. How this active protection can help trees to basically survive in the urban environment. This is something that I mentioned earlier. So introduction of trees from the American South. We are thinking that there is a potential with the transpirations, what they can provide. Are there any questions yet?
Yeah, I do have one quick question about that, only because, working with programs that kind of only geared towards native and wanting to increase the biodiversity of the native ecosystem. But I'm wondering, is some of the thought process behind that because of the climate change and how much precipitation, it's like it's going to change eventually.
Eventually, and we are like kind of avant-garde, if I can use this word, for a climate change in the cities. We are experiencing what is happening hundreds of miles away because we are exposed. There are different, and this is a way to basically figure out what is going to happen also with the native flora. I think that this is a natural track that already started with the hardiness zone moving north. Baltimore, when I came, was 7A, 7B. Now it's like 7B, 8A. We have citruses. We can grow citruses like yuzu in Baltimore, which is like unheard. And there's a lot of plants like bay leaf or loquats that basically thrive in Baltimore right now. So we are thinking that I think we planted this one is brought from Charleston. It was like a pretty large tree, but there are some others that were provided by our forestry that we planted, and they are doing very well. And we're thinking that would be probably the future for. Go ahead.
Can you go back to what the blocks look like?
Sure.
The collisions. So no. Not those blocks. For to prevent collisions, it looks like kind of like a bike rack.
Yeah. Sorry.
No, forward.
Yep.
Yes. What are they called again?
I don't know. That's I just saw them on the streets when I was walking, and I said, "Oh, this is really good for the trees." But they use the simple bollards. I think that I talked to someone also in places like that. Even boulders could be put in the corners. That would keep them away. It's eventually always happening. It's eventually always happening when the trees are damaged. So they can grow for many years, and then it's just that's the end of the party. Anyone?
You had a question virtually about what those blocks are made of that do all that absorbing.
I think it's lava or basalt type. It's the same materials that are used on the rooftop to hold the water. I think this, as far as I know. Okay, so I also would like to talk a little bit about equity and the design of a block. So here you have a typical Baltimore block that we would like to, it could be evolved to become an ideal block. And one of the reasons why it's equitable, it's this web of trees that basically provides a thermal comfort in the public space. And the objective to achieve a continuous mature tree canopy covering the walking areas all the way around the urban block to provide shade for people and buildings, mitigate the urban heat island created by hard space, and enhance an absorption and transpiration of stormwater again. So it's also very important how those trees are planted. They have to be distributed evenly. And here you have a block transect with the private building, the sidewalk, and what I was mentioning before, a parking space that could be also permeable. So here is improved with the stormwater management, but that's how it looks. So basically, this parking space gives extra space for the tree and the root system. Thank you very much. That would be all. Thank you. Do you have any other questions? Yeah.
I was just curious about the trees because we're focused on planting trees and then discussing permeable pavers for parking spaces. Have you seen that anywhere where it's been successful? Just thinking about the leaves clogging
yeah. So that's basically the entire, actually the Netherlands, where they have problems with stormwater. That's basically a standard. So street parking, but also any kind of alleys as well, or small streets. And obviously just to be clear, those wider 12 by 12, for example, are used on the sidewalks. Bricks, where the pressure from the vehicular traffic is higher, are used usually where the street parking is. So yeah, but they are. I have a bunch of pictures that I took. I can share it with you.
Do you know if they can do any maintenance to unclog those?
Well, they, like with this experiment that we did with this 100 over 100, they seem to be still permeable despite that there is a lot of sediments that happen. Probably what I noticed in Amsterdam, I saw it that there is a regular sand replacement. And sometimes they're just basically dropping a pile of sand that is quite flat and let the people actually spread the sand by itself. So that's the only thing that I know. Definitely there is some maintenance that will be required. It's not free, but I'm thinking that it's much better than permeable concrete or asphalt that requires vacuuming. And the notion that those trees, that those sidewalks, after 140 years, they are still somehow permeable, it was really mind-blowing. And it actually shows how important they are for the trees, because whenever you have permeable pavers in Baltimore, the trees are immediately much bigger, so they can they grow basically much better.
Thank you.
You have one more question virtually, and I think we
Sure.
might need to wrap up then. By planting trees as seeds or as seedlings, an undamaged root system is utilized and subsequent higher growth rates and presumably greater resistance and resiliency. Please speculate about the use of seedlings instead of caliper-sized DBH trees.
I won't, because I prefer bigger trees, because there is a lot of mechanical damages, and with the seedlings it's very difficult in the urban and this kind of urban environment for them to survive. I know that some people are thinking that it's better to use seedlings, but from my perspective, I would prefer something that I can raise the canopy as soon as possible, both from the sidewalk side and from the street side.
Can we thank our speaker one more time? In the room, you have an evaluation form that I just handed out. Please fill that out and then come collect your 2 tickets. 1 ticket you put in the raffle at the poster session, I think, and the other one you keep. That way, if they pull your name, you know what your number is. So, yeah, again, thank you so much to our speaker, and thank you all for coming.